True Crime Society podcast contains adult themes and violence and is not intended for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. And if you'd like to skip the intro or move to any specific part of the podcast, please refer to the timestamps listed in the episode description. Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the True Crime Society podcast with Stephanie and Olivia. This episode is going to be a release of one of our Patreons from our Patreon vault or archive, as one would say. I don't know if people say that, but that's what I'm saying.
It's quite a newish vault, only from October this year. But yeah, well, I guess it's when this is released, it'll be last year. But yeah, it's a few months old now.
Vintage. It's a year old.
Yeah.
Not even. No, it's one that we did pretty recently, but for the holidays and everything, we're trying to relax a little. Plus, we wanted to put a Patreon episode out to maybe entice some people to check it out. Maybe you want to join Patreon. Patreon. We always talk about it. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. We're going to be talking about the latest updates at the time, and probably still really the latest updates in the Ellen Greenberg death investigation. It's a big case that everyone's been following for a long time. And there was a few things that happened this year.
Yeah, so we did cover Ellen's. We've covered Ellen's case a lot over the years on our stories. We've done an episode for her in 2022 originally, where we went through her case, and this episode we released in October 2025, as there were some interesting updates. It's one of those cases, I think, where people feel very strongly one way or the other. So we just thought it would be interesting and timely to cover the new updates. Like, we've learned some more about some new wounds that she maybe had. But it's one I feel like that will probably never really have a resolution that everyone is happy with. Like, everyone is always going to feel one way or the other, I think, in this case. And, you know, it is a very, very unusual case. So rightfully so, I guess, that people have these polarizing opinions. So I feel like if you listen to podcasts or, you know, any other kind of content creation, you will probably know what Patreon is. But basically, it's a subscription platform where the creators set an amount and they give you some extra content. Like for us, for example, our content costs around $1 a week, obviously depending on your currency, but around $1 US a week. And for that, you get all of our main episodes ad-free. So every long episode ad-free. And we also do also do an extra episode of a week, which is usually at least over half an hour. It's usually quite a lot longer. So that isn't released to the public unless there's, you know, kind of a special circumstance like this one. Every now and then we may release a Patreon to the public, but every single week you get exclusive content. We cover a lot of very current cases there because we can get it out quickly. It's a little bit probably more informal than this podcast, the main podcast. We have a chat. And we have a great Patreon community too, where we chat about books and, you know, people send photos of their pets and all that on the Patreon app and on, you know, the website. So if you think that would be something that you can enjoy, definitely have a look into signing up. We do offer a discount for annual subscriptions as well. So check that out. It's just, you can Google Patreon True Crime Society. The link is patreon.com/True Crime Society.
Yeah, right now there's over 120 bonus episodes that you would get access to. This will be one. No, well, this week's will be 121, I think. So check it out.
And if you are listening to this after January 3rd, there's a little bit of an exciting thing happening. I've started a new podcast with Mike Morford, who you may know from Criminology. We're working together on a podcast called Below the Surface, which is still crime related, but it's about water related crimes. Like we've covered so far, or the ones that we will be covering in the next few weeks: Susan Smith and the murder of journalist Kim Wall, who was murdered in a submarine. So if you want to check it out, you can just look for Below the Surface. I've also linked it on my Instagram profile if you want to check it out. TCS Olivia is my Instagram profile. So hopefully we will see you over there too.
Yeah. So hope you guys enjoy the episode and check us out on Patreon if that all sounds cool to you. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
What's up, guys? guys, welcome back to another Patreon True Crime Society episode with Stephanie and Olivia. It is October 19th, 2025 right now, and I just have to apologize. I hope none of you are offended by my low reading level, which is what someone on Reddit said.
I am shocked that the person didn't take it down. I thought surely that they're going to delete it, but as far as I know, it's still up there.
Well, according to that AI thing you sent, apparently they're usually a dick on Reddit, it seems like.
Usually dismissive, which I don't know, because I'm still, like, I'm getting more into Reddit, but I clicked on their username and it gives you kind of like a summary of their Reddit activity. And it's like they participate a lot in this and this and this, and their responses are usually very dismissive. And I'm like, well, they're on brand today.
Yeah, and they're probably Australian, so says a lot.
Yeah, they're very into Married at First Sight, which I'm like, damn, I'm disappointed because I'm into that too.
It's actually just Olivia bullying me, like what's her name? Kendra.
The mom.
Yeah. No, if you don't know, I'm just joking about it because I really just don't give a fuck anymore. I mean, I give like a little fuck, but just someone on Reddit was like, Stephanie's bad at reading. Does she have like a low reading level? I assure you, I've read a lot of literature and Shakespeare and things. I went to college. I have a writing degree, so I had to read a lot of high level stuff. Okay. Just sometimes my mouth moves faster than my brain. And I apologize if that bothers anyone, but I am who I am. So your choice to listen to me, everyone.
You had lots of support from all the people.
I know.
Who
I don't need to
up.
defend myself on Patreon because, like, everyone here, I would assume, at least can tolerate me. So
wants to be here.
Yeah. So it's not worth bringing up on the main episode because whatever. Anyways, weather here was a little warmer today. It's been chilly. Brought out a lot of ladybugs. What's up with you? Anything going on?
No, so it's Monday here. I am hosting book club this week, this Friday, so it's my turn. Like, how it works is basically everyone has a everyone has a turn, so you only have to host once every 18 months or so. So it's been a while since I've hosted, so I am excited for that. I have finished my book, which I'm happy about too. It was The Girls Who Grew Big. What is her name? I'm just going to Google it quickly because I have wanted to read, and she has another book called, I think, Night Crawlers. It's by Layla Motley. And I was tossing up which of her books to pick. I Googled best books of 2025 and The Girls Who Grew Big popped up. So I picked that. It was really good. It was very different to anything we've read for a while. It was about teen pregnancies in Florida, which I feel like is a very niche book, but it's obviously fiction. But I really enjoyed it, but it does discuss things like miscarriage and abortion. So if that's a bit of a trigger warning, don't read it. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done. The audio was great. I really enjoyed it. So hopefully everyone else enjoyed it, but because it's Monday here, obviously my kids went back to school. My older daughter went to a camp last week. I said, like, I felt like Kathy Hilton sending Paris Hilton off to like reform camp because
so funny.
it was, and it's getting really hot here too. So this camp was meant to happen in May, but because of all the rain, then they postponed it to now, and now it's stinking hot. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know which would have been worse, the rain or the heat. But they have to take their own tents, all their own food to cook for the week. They have to do activities like abseiling, mountain biking, horse riding. My daughter is a good dancer. She's not particularly coordinated at some things though, like abseiling. I'm like, oh my gosh. Every day I was just waiting for the call, like come and pick her up. Something's happened or she doesn't want to do it. But she did the whole week. She loved it. She said she gave it a 9 out of 10, which my mouth was like, what? I can't believe it. But her tent mate did break her elbow. And I'm like, well, what happened? Like, did she fall off the horse? And my daughter goes, no, she fell over a tent peg.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, she had a great time, but she, obviously things like the showers were disgusting and things like that. But I was like, wow, such a good experience. She loved it. I was just waiting and praying when she got home that I hated it. I can't ever go back to school, but she loved it. So yeah, so we've had a big busy week, but back into the new week here. Yeah, straight back in. And they went back they only went back to school Monday last week. And that was the first week after spring break. So she had 1 day at school, then they went to camp. So this is her first full week back. So this is our first week of proper routine.
You're going to have to take her camping.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I feel like that's her camping experience done. I'm not, like, we don't have any camping stuff. I have been camping in the past, but I'm just like, we don't have any camping stuff, and I'm quite happy to keep it that way.
Yeah, I was telling you, we did like an 8th grade overnight camping trip, and it was just one night. And we did tents, and of course it rained, and I remember I fucking hated it. It was like so miserable and shitty, not fun. Like, but good for her.
Yeah, I'm very happy for her.
get into the topic at hand, which is Ellen Greenberg and her suspicious death after the Hulu documentary. It's been back. Well, first it was the Hulu documentary that put it kind of back in the
Public eye.
mainstream media. But then there was another updated ruling on her cause of death, which a lot of people think that she committed. No, a lot of people think that she was murdered, but the medical examiner has always said it was suicide. Her family put up a big fight because she was stabbed like, was it 20 times?
20, well, yeah, she was originally, the original autopsy report said 20 times. In the new review, they have found a few more wounds, so it's 23 times now, but I don't really think that
and
makes
like
a
in her
difference to
back
the
and
outcome
neck.
anyway. Yeah.
So people are like, how could she do that to herself? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so her family, her parents especially, have always disputed the suicide ruling, and they've kind of petitioned over the years. They've filed lawsuits and civil suits to have the case re-examined, and they wanted the manner of death changed from suicide to either homicide or undetermined, which would mean there would be a police investigation. So that's what they've been petitioning for over the years, and just not getting ahead of ourselves, their petition was granted, which is why this has all happened this year again. Because this happened in 2011, so it happened a while ago, but this has obviously still been ongoing for all these years. Their petition was granted and it didn't get the outcome that they were hoping for.
No, so the medical examiner again ruled that they're sticking with suicide, which has a lot of people in an uproar. So we'll go over some of the new information and just our thoughts on everything. So if you don't remember, we first covered this case back in 2022. So if you want, or if you haven't listened to that episode or you're not familiar with the story, maybe go listen to that one first because it goes into much more of the background and everything that happened. But in summary, she was 27 years old when she died in 2011, and her death was officially ruled a suicide. Like we said, she died from over 20 stab wounds, 10 to her back and neck, and she had 11 bruises. People think that this could be a homicide and are suspicious of her fiance, Samuel Goldberg, who was there with her that day. I mean, they lived together and he was in the apartment and a lot of things tracking his movements through the apartment building. So we'll go through that too.
And he has since, just to interject, remarried and I believe had children. I think he has, if we discussed in our last episode. But anyway, he's moved on. But has never ever been charged or even really they obviously questioned him after she died, but there's never really been a full police investigation once it was ruled suicide back in 2011.
Yeah, just side note, imagine being him and really not having done anything. Like how fucking annoying this all probably is.
I know.
So Ellen's parents, Josh and Sandy Greenberg, have always disputed the suicide ruling. In 2019, they filed a civil suit against the Philadelphia medical examiner and Marlon Osborne, who was the pathologist that conducted the autopsy. The suit sought to change the manner of death to homicide or undetermined, and this legal process has been ongoing for years. So in the most recent developments, which happened in July 2024, when the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania granted a petition for allowance of appeal to review the challenge to Ellen's cause of death. In February 2025, Ellen's parents filed 2 civil lawsuits against the city. A settlement was reached, and this meant that Ellen's manner of death would be reinvestigated. Marlon Osborne, who's the pathologist, said in February this year that he now believed that Ellen's manner of death should be designated as something other than suicide. He said he changed his decision after he reviewed additional information in her police case file and after a consultation from Dr. Lucy Rourke Adams, who's a pediatric neuropathologist. Like, we were like, why a pediatric one? But I guess she used to work for the medical examiner's office, so it just...
When we were discussing why would he get a pediatric one, we actually looked it up. She used to work for the medical examiner. She had a really long career. Like, she's almost 100 years old. She's still alive. She was born in, I think, 1929. She didn't retire until 2015 when she was 86 years old. So I guess her primary training was a pediatric neuropathologist, but she did work for the ME for a very long time.
I wish that I would love a job so much that I wouldn't retire till my 80s. But here we are, me already being like, I don't want to go back to work. So at this stage, Marlon was no longer employed by the Philadelphia Medical Examiner office, and his statement couldn't have any influence on the death certificate. Ellen's mother spoke after this development and said, I hope today we made Ellen proud of us. We are certainly very proud of her as parents. It's monumental. For 14 years, we've been dealing with this suicide label. So the investigation began, and on October 10th, 2025, a 32-page report was released. Chief Medical Examiner Lindsay Simon, who's Philadelphia's top pathologist, confirmed again, of course my voice goes out at the dramatic part, confirmed again that Ellen had died by suicide. In her report, Dr. Simon says that she based her determination on several factors, including Ellen's struggle with anxiety. Dr. Simon wrote in the report that Ellen was a young woman suffering from anxiety at the time of her death. The anxiety appeared mostly to be due to her work as a teacher. She specifically worried that the grades she needed to submit on the day of her death would indicate that she'd previously given inflated grades to her students. She expressed this anxiety about her grades to her friends, coworkers, and her fiance in the hours leading up to her death, which is an interesting thing to be very worried about. Like, was she inflating their grades? I just thought that was interesting. Dr. Simon noted that the distribution of wounds is admittedly unusual, though she says the evidence she reviewed shows Ellen would be capable of administering them herself, and adding that many of the injuries were hesitation wounds. Dr. Simon also said that there was no DNA detected from her fiance or anyone else on the knife, and wrote that his statement and timeline matches things like text messages, phone logs, surveillance videos, and there was no evidence that she was in an abusive relationship. Dr. Simon noted in the review that there's no evidence to support that anyone else was inside her apartment that day. This means that the city of Philadelphia is standing by the 2011 ruling. If Ellen's manner of death had been changed to homicide or undetermined, it would have meant that a police investigation could have begun. The Greenberg family attorney told NBC 10, "I'm not shocked by her conclusion that it is a suicide, since the city has doubled down and tripled down on that over the years. Over the years, I've been involved in the case, but I'm very troubled by the contents of the report. As far as I'm concerned, the entire document is trite. It's just a horrendous sabotage and attack on Ellen's personality based on this alleged anxiety condition." So we linked the 32-page report on our blog if you want to read the whole thing, but we're just going to go through some of the more interesting points that Olivia highlighted while doing the notes for us. So 2 things that are just kind of random that are interesting. The report states that the materials reviewed include reports from people such as Dr. Cyril Wecht, who's a famous pathologist who passed away in 2024. He worked on cases such as Anna Nicole Smith, Rebecca Zahow, Jeffrey Epstein, and Lacey Peterson. Is he the one that had a TV show too?
Yeah, he's been on heaps of TV shows. You would definitely know his face probably. He was on all the crime shows and stuff, yeah.
And the other point is the Hulu documentary Death in Apartment 603, What Happened to Ellen Greenberg, was also reviewed for the report, which is interesting that they took the documentary into account. The report starts with the initial report of death, and it runs through the timeline leading up to Ellen apparently being found by her partner Samuel. None of this is really new, and it just reiterates his version of events and what was said and what the witnesses said. This is a timeline of what happened that day. I'll just go through it. It's a list, so I'm sorry if I sound like I'm listing something, because I am. So at 1:32 p.m., Ellen enters the parking garage of the apartment complex per this is why people say I can't read. Per key card swipe. 1:53 p.m., fiance enters the parking garage of the complex per key card swipe.
Also, just to add to, I know that seems quite early because like people are like, why weren't they at work? Why were they like why wasn't she at school? All that type of thing. But also, I feel like there was really bad weather that day. If I remember, there was some massive storm coming, and so that's like school had been cancelled. I hope I'm getting that right. I'm remembering this
early.
Yeah, from the last episode that we did. It says a snowstorm hit the Philadelphia area, causing classes to be cancelled. So I feel like the weather was really bad, which is why they were both home in the middle of the day, essentially.
Interesting. 4:51 p.m. Fiance enters the gym of the apartment building per keycard swipe, and this also corroborated by surveillance video in the lobby. 5:30 p.m., fiance on surveillance video leaving the gym and walking towards the front desk in the lobby of the apartment building. At 5:31 p.m., he is seen on surveillance video getting on a lobby elevator while reading the mail. 6:10 p.m., fiance on surveillance video leaving a lobby elevator and walking toward the front desk. 6:13, he's again on surveillance video getting on a lobby elevator. 6:25, he's on surveillance video leaving a lobby elevator. 6:31, he's on surveillance video walking through the apartment building lobby while talking on the phone. So it seems like at 6:13 is when he was going up to the apartment, and 6:25 is when he came back.
So
Maybe.
I think he left the gym, and so that this is also why people like this is sus. But basically, he kind of tried. It almost is like he waited for an hour before he went down to try and get help to get into the apartment. Because if you remember from the first episode, the apartment was latched from the inside. So when he went up, he couldn't open it. So like, there's been a lot of questions about why he essentially waited an hour before he went down to the front desk to get help. But so he left the gym at 5:30 ish, and then he came back down at around 6:30, and that's when I believe he alerted the front desk staff that he couldn't get in, and they tried to help him, and that's when they discovered Ellen.
Yeah, so if you look at the timeline, it seems a little confusing just because a lot of back and forth, but it's because there kind of was a lot of back and forth. So at 6:33 p.m., fiance on surveillance video getting on an elevator, and at 6:33, 911 is called by the fiance. 6:35, medics responded. 6:37, officers from the Philadelphia Police Department responded. 6:40, Ellen pronounced dead at the scene. Then it lists a bunch of firefighters showing up, people showing up, and goes down to 9:55 p.m. Final documented assessment of the body at the scene made by the medical examiner's office investigator. And 11:25, fiance arrived by police transport to the Northwest Detectives Division of the Philadelphia Police Department for questioning.
So that 1 hour in between when he left the gym and kind of when he got help, a lot of people have questioned, is that when he did it? Obviously, like, he entered their apartment at around 2 p.m. that day, and then he went to the gym just before 5. So there was also that 3-hour period. Like, that timeline has raised a lot of questions, and I feel like that has contributed to a lot of people having the belief that this was a homicide, because he essentially probably did have the time to do this. There was also no CCTV in the hallway of the, like, in the apartment hallway, if that makes sense. Like, so I don't know, obviously if they're apartment 603, they're probably on level 6. So, in level 6 hallway, there's no camera to verify any of this. It's only in the common areas of the apartment. So a lot of questions about that timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So in the report, they also go through what Ellen's psychiatrist said. Ellen reportedly had told the psychiatrist nothing bad about Samuel. The psychiatrist also said that Ellen seemed happiest when she was speaking about her fiancé. Her parents had also contacted the psychiatrist to convey their concerns about Ellen's mental health before her death, and they also mentioned that she had quite bad anxiety. The report runs through Ellen's medication history. She switched and changed her medications a lot, which I remember we went through in our first episode. Like, we discussed, had she given each medication enough time to kind of work? Obviously, these things take a bit of time to adjust, but basically she'd been on Zoloft, then she changed to Xanax. She also took Ambien and Klonopin. So again, there's been a lot of discussion online about maybe this, quite rapid change in prescriptions, and these drugs may have contributed to her death. I did have a look at the autopsy report again, just to refresh my memory. Basically, she was negative for benzos, fentanyl, and opiates. And she was trace evidence of zolpidem, and there was some clonazepam as well. So there's been a lot of questions about if the Ambien/zolpidem could have contributed to her maybe not being in a kind of coherent state. We did get this message. It says, "I'm so conflicted because right when I found out she was just put on Ambien, I thought that's a different story. I took half of one of those and I hallucinated demons flying around my head. So that's all I have. Maybe she was hallucinating and stabbed herself." But trace amounts of it, would she have taken an Ambien at 2:00 in the afternoon? I don't know. Like, I feel like if she was trying to overdose, for example, there would have been much more than a trace found. I just don't really think that the Ambien probably contributed to whatever happened that day, in my non-professional opinion.
Yeah, if it was more, maybe I could see it, because I've heard stories of people taking Ambien and like being fucked up. But
like, you always hear of people like who bake a whole cake and don't remember and things like that. Like, I get that. If it was like midnight and she'd taken an Ambien, maybe. Even when we did the Phoebe, what was her name? Phoebe episode where she was in the shoot. Phoebe Handsjuck episode where she ended up in the shoot, and she had apparently taken the boyfriend's, I think it was Ambien as well, still Knox. So again, I could absolutely see that being a possibility. I just don't think that at the time this happened and the trace amounts would have led to it being a factor in her death.
I did just look up clonazepam, which is Klonopin, just because I wanted to see it. It does say that the adverse effects of it says may cause confusion, mental depression, forgetfulness, hallucinations, hysteria, and a list of other things like that. So, I mean, I wonder how long she was on that, but it says may cause, here, wait, this is the full list, may cause confusion, mental depression, forgetfulness, hallucinations, hysteria, increased libido, insomnia, psychosis, or suicidal tendencies. So,
Yeah.
but if it's
Don't
something
get
that
me
she was
wrong.
on for a while, then
I feel like she wasn't on it very long because she'd only been going to the psychiatrist for not long at the time that she died. Like she'd only seen the psychiatrist a handful of times. So I remember we discussed that they didn't seem to have given each drug a very long time to work. So I don't know. Like again, I feel
could
like
be. Never know.
this quick change of drugs could have really messed her up too. Like, you know, obviously you have side effects from some of them, then changing to a new one, you might have more side effects. Like maybe it could have played a role in not like it could have played a role in her mental health. Like she maybe wasn't feeling the best after these kind of switches and changes of drugs.
Yeah.
So the report also goes into the autopsy in detail and discusses some omissions and errors in the original report. The original report documented 20 stab wounds. However, when they reviewed the autopsy photos, there are an additional 3 perforations in the skin which were not originally included. These wounds were concluded, though, to not have resulted in any significant injuries to Ellen. So essentially, it didn't really change any outcomes. But I did side-eye that. Like, why did he not include that in the original one? Like, 3 is a lot. And if they were evident enough in the autopsy photos, why didn't he put them in? That was a bit strange.
Yeah.
There's also some discussion in the new report about how the wounds described in the original report do not match up with what is seen in the photos. The autopsy obviously happened in 2011, so with the passage of time, they didn't exhume Ellen either. I did look it up and she was buried, I believe, so I guess exhumation could be possible, but now obviously the condition of the body would have deteriorated and things like that. They didn't exhume her for any of this, but they do make a lot of comments in the new report like cannot be adequately assessed by the autopsy photographs. So they're just going off. Essentially, the new report is a review. They didn't do any new investigation as such in terms of the autopsy and medical stuff. They did, in the first report, they did describe that Ellen had 11 contusions, but there was no clarification in the first autopsy as to if they were recent or healing. So I just picked out this excerpt from the new report because it does clarify that, because people are like, she was bruised, she must have been fighting, you know, that could indicate that. It says, Dr. Osborne's autopsy report described a total of 11 contusions on the right upper arm, right forearm, right lower abdomen, and right thigh. There is no description in the report to indicate which of these the doctor believed to be resolving. It is the opinion of the undersigned that the described contusion of the arm and some of the contusions of the forearm and thigh were resolving, as in they were old. The remaining documented contusions of the right forearm, abdomen, and thigh appear to be more recent. So it still doesn't say any, I guess they can't determine how recent, but the majority of them were kind of older bruises.
Yeah.
There's also a large section of the report which describes how the door to Ellen and Samuel's apartment was latched from the inside. So they kind of go into basically that. I feel like that played a large role in the suicide determination too. Like I remember in our first episode, we went into theories about how he could have latched it from the underside. Like I know you can put like a coat hanger up and latch it that way. Like, you know, you've seen all
seems
those
like
videos.
A lot of effort though.
It does. And especially in a public apartment building where people could be walking past in the middle of the afternoon, like it was early evening. I just feel like it's very unlikely. It seems like it was probably latched from the inside. Samuel had gone to the apartment complex gym that day. As we mentioned, when he got back, he found it locked from the inside. He kind of tried to get in, couldn't get in. So he went to the front desk and said that he was locked out. Maintenance offered to use a master key to open the door, but Samuel said that wasn't any help because it was latched from the inside. So Samuel did go up to the apartment with a maintenance person and he ended up breaking down the door. He has said in the report, they go through why he waited so long to call for help or get someone to try and help him. He said he thought Ellen may have been napping in the shower or she may have had headphones on. So I'm assuming he was kind of banging on the door, let me in, you know, and that was his reasoning, which seems, you know.
Which I think is fair.
reasonable enough. Like, I don't know, would you wait an hour? Maybe. But then I guess and I think too, he was trying to not cause damage to the door, which he would probably have to pay for. If she was just napping, you don't need to break down a door if someone's just asleep and doesn't hear you.
Maybe she napped often. Maybe she mentioned napping. I don't know.
And she was home early from work. Like, she had the afternoon off, so why not have a nap, I guess. But
yeah.
As we mentioned, though, there were no cameras in the hallway, so we don't essentially know. All we have is Samuel's version of what happened. They go through in the report about what Samuel did once he found out Ellen was dead. He apparently fell to the floor and said, "I can't believe it," and we just sent out save the date cards. They did interview some of their neighbours in the apartment complex. One of them said that they never heard any arguments from Ellen and Samuel's apartment. 3 friends of the couple were also interviewed. One said that they had a wonderful relationship. Another said that Ellen, quote, loved her fiancé to pieces. And the third described Samuel as, quote, a great guy. Ellen's co-workers were also interviewed. As we mentioned, she was working as a teacher, and they spoke about how anxious she had been regarding the grades that she'd given her students. Her co-workers said that Ellen always spoke highly of Samuel. She told one colleague that Samuel was her knight in shining armour. They did release Ellen's final text exchanges in this new report, and I can't recall ever seeing them before, but even if you have, I just thought it was interesting because this is the last communication that was sent from her phone, and it was regarding the grades and school issues. It sounds like she was texting someone who was likely pregnant. Do you want to read it? You be person and I'll be Ellen if you want.
Yeah.
So the texts are from the 26th of January, which is the day that she died, and the text exchange starts at 1:51 and it finishes at Ellen's last text back is 3:41. So basically a 2-hour time period that they're sending these texts over.
It's interesting because the last one from her is 3:41. That seems like around the time. What was he doing then?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So he got home from wherever he was at around 2, and then he went to the gym at around 4:50. I'm just off the top of my head. So he was definitely in the apartment apparently at that time.
Yeah. Okay. So person. So sick, sad face. It's been miserable.
Ellen writes back around 25 minutes later. Oh no.
Yeah, I feel like I've tried everything, but nothing is working. Sad face.
Well, that's the big thing. That's the thing. It feels that way for a reason.
I guess. It's not fun, though. Hopefully it goes away by 12 weeks.
How many now?
7.
OMG, smiley face.
I know, crazy, right? If I wasn't so sick, I wouldn't believe it.
Ha ha ha, love it. When do you go to the doctor?
Tuesday a.m. Maybe then it'll seem real.
Yay.
How have you been this week?
She writes, my great. I feel like that probably should be not great or something along those lines because she writes, my great, I want to scream. So I would assume that means not great, I want to scream. And then she says, and grades are due tonight and I can't seem to get them done.
Scan some to me. I'll do them after work tonight.
Yeah, so then it says that, so the last text, Ellen's last text was 3:41. Her friend replied at 3:47 and that was the end. After that, though, there were 9 separate unanswered texts from Ellen's fiancé between 5:32 and 6:11 p.m. So that's around the time when he went to the gym and he was trying to get back up and he couldn't.
He was probably like, hello, are you awake?
Yeah, where are you?
Wake
up. Yeah, open the door. So it is like, I don't know, I guess the most interesting thing about that is she was speaking about how she was anxious about the grades and couldn't get them done. And there was also kind of like a 25-minute gap before she started the text exchange after the person first wrote to her. So I don't know, I guess she could have just been chatting with Samuel or whatever in the house. The report also discusses forensic evidence such as DNA and fingerprints. As you probably know, Ellen was found with a knife in her chest. They did find 2 prints on the knife, but they weren't able to be identified or investigated. Only Samuel and Ellen's DNA was identified on the samples that they tested during the investigation. When police searched devices in the home, they discovered search terms on Ellen's laptop, including the words suicide, depressed, and suicide methods. The report also addresses other reports by professionals that have been conducted over the years. Many of those have concluded that Ellen was murdered. I feel like this is a lot of noise in this case. People are like, absolutely, I believe that she was murdered because of this reason. But after they looked into those other reports, none of the consultants confirmed that they had reviewed police records, and only one of them had reviewed Ellen's psychiatric records. So all they were going off was the autopsy reports and I guess the scene where she was found. So they hadn't reviewed any of the other background information.
I think we mentioned this in like another case too. Well, probably many cases, but this is one of those ones where the sensationalism of it gets people more attention and clicks. I think we were talking about that Cyril guy because he had a show, and it's like saying things a certain way is going to get more people to watch a show, more people to give him attention, more people to look at his things, not him specifically, but like anyone who covers this case like that, because people get very up in arms about this one. So they look out things that support what they agree with, which a lot of people believe homicide.
So they do include in the new report a final revised timeline of events. We won't go through it each kind of time by time because we have gone through a lot of it already. But they do say that basically there is an approximate 4-minute variation between sources. I guess that can happen because of, timestamps on cameras being wrong and all that type of thing. So a little bit of variation, but basically the confirmed timeline starts at 1:32 when Ellen gets to the garage of the apartment complex. It lists all the texts that she sent. At 2:33 p.m., there was a call from Ellen's cell phone to a number that wasn't saved in contacts. When they obviously tried to find out who the number belonged to, it was to a local restaurant. They did find that there was a conversation between Ellen and a friend on the day before she died where they discussed making reservations at that restaurant. So that seems reasonable and explainable. So Ellen, it says that Samuel left to go to the gym at around 5:45. Ellen was reportedly working on grades for work when he left, so she wasn't asleep. She was apparently working. The last activity on her laptop, as per the Hulu documentary, was at 4:46 p.m. So 1 minute, essentially, after he left to go to the gym, she stopped whatever she was doing. He went to the gym, 4:51. Then it goes on basically that he was seen by a neighbor between 5:30 and 5:45 trying to get into the apartment. The neighbor went back into the hallway and then kind of tried to help, apparently, Sam enter the apartment, but they could see that it was latched from the inside. The neighbor said it was clear that the door was latched. Goes into what the concierge did once Samuel went downstairs and said that he was locked out. He was described by the concierge as being sweaty and was wearing a blue T-shirt and shorts, so I guess that makes sense. If he'd been to the gym, he may have still been sweaty. At around 6:25 p.m., the fiancé Samuel was advised by the maintenance supervisor to shoulder in at the apartment door, which he did. And he then obviously found Ellen dead. It says, I don't think there's anything else. So then the last kind of confirmed part of the timeline, one of them is at 6:47 when the police, 6:45 and 6:47 around when the police and medical people arrived after they were called when Ellen was found. One part that I did find especially interesting in the new report is it discusses sections of the autopsy, and it also emphasizes the lack of defensive wounds that Ellen suffered, which you would have expected would have been present if this had have been a homicide. Like, it was a very brutal attack. She had 23 stab wounds that we now know. So if someone's stabbing you, surely you're going to put your arms up and you don't want to die. Surely you're going to put your arms up. Surely you're going to be running away or something. But they said a lot of the wounds were hesitation wounds and that she essentially had no defensive wounds, which, interesting. I'll just read out the final summary of the report and what they discovered. It says, Ellen was a young woman suffering from anxiety at the time of her death. The anxiety appeared mostly to be due to her work as a teacher. She was specifically worried that the grades she needed to submit on the day of her death would indicate that she had previously given inflated grades to her students. She expressed this anxiety about her grades to friends, co-workers, and her fiancé in the hours leading up to her death. She was under the care of a psychiatrist for this anxiety. While her recent change in medications had helped with the insomnia associated with her anxiety, she did not survive long enough to address the anxiety itself. Thus, she had an increase in energy to act on her anxious thoughts. It says that it goes into, the wounds that she had. While the distribution of injuries is admittedly unusual, the fact remains that Ellen would be capable of inflicting these injuries herself. Many of these would be categorized as hesitation wounds, no defensive wounds. There was no evidence to indicate Ellen was incapacitated or incapable of defending herself, because people have always discussed that maybe Samuel kind of strangled her and was able to stab her that way, or had somehow made her incapable of defending herself, but the ME is saying there's no evidence of that. Says the fiance's DNA was not on the knife used to inflict the injuries. His version of events has been corroborated by all the methods that we spoke about. No evidence was provided that indicated Ellen was in an abusive relationship. There was no evidence of a third party being in the apartment. No one else's DNA was found. Then they go on just to conclude it. With all of this information considered, it is the opinion of the undersigned that the manner of Ellen's death is best classified as suicide. All opinions in this report are expressed with a reasonable degree of medical certainty. So that's it. So people were pretty shocked, outraged about this finding. Ellen's parents spoke to the media very soon after it was released. Sandy said, "I was kicked in the stomach and I was dumbfounded. I couldn't talk for 2 days and I couldn't read it," about the new report, she said. She went on to say, "I don't know what our future options are, but we are not going away. We're not giving up." So just because there was a period at the end of the sentence does not mean we forgot about our daughter. We love her very much. So they were interviewed after the report was released by ABC, and the reporter said to them, "In your scenario, someone got away with murder." And her dad, Josh, replied, "That's what I believe. We want to know the truth." So obviously this has all just happened in the last 10 days, essentially. So it is still a developing story. I have no doubt that the Greenbergs probably won't let this go and that this will keep going on and on. We did ask on Instagram once the report was released. I originally asked, did people think Ellen's death was self-inflicted, homicide, accident, or other? And at the time, 94% of them said homicide and 4% said self-inflicted. And then when I asked if people had read the report, did their opinions change? 85% of people said they thought it was homicide. So, but it is interesting because 85% said homicide, 5% said self-inflicted, so slightly more, but then 9% said other. So I don't know if people just don't know, like maybe they're confused now and they...
That's kind of how I feel, but I don't know.
Yeah, so like I know this is an unpopular opinion, and I would estimate that we've maybe had 2 messages from people saying, yep, I think it was absolutely a suicide. Everyone else is like, how could anyone rule this a suicide? Absolutely no way. I know there are 2 other suicide methods that I've heard of that do stick out in my mind, and I actually looked them up just to mention them. This is from 2008, so an older one, but a man actually cut off his own head with a chainsaw, which you'll be like, how can that actually be possible? But that is what happened. There was another one in New York in 2014 where a man decapitated himself because he tied a chain around his neck, tied the chain to a pole. He then got into his car and drove away. So like it's graphic, I know. But if someone is mentally unwell and they want to die 100%, there are ways that people, like who would ever think to do that? I can't believe it. So I feel like, it is unusual to stab herself in the back, but maybe she was doing that so if her reasoning would be so more organs were affected, or I don't know. Maybe she was even trying to make it look like a murder so that for life insurance purposes, because sometimes suicide doesn't pay out. I don't know. That could be something along those lines.
I feel like it's not that I am like, yeah, it was totally a suicide, but I just feel like all the evidence, she was the only one in there. I don't think it was a homicide. So I feel like it has to be a suicide by default, even though it does seem really weird. But I guess my thinking is like she had some sort of mental break, because I have seen people who have had adverse reactions to anti-anxiety or antidepressants, and it can make you kind of have like a totally different mental, like a totally different
your personality changes, and you get stuck sometimes because of the side effects of these medications. It gives you a different mindset, your behaviors are different.
Like one person I knew basically had like a psychotic break because of it, and they figured out it was just like an adverse reaction to Zoloft, just had like a massive panic attack. And another person that I knew did become suicidal when they weren't ever before until they figured out the right medication. So I know that can really mess with you. So maybe just the combination of stress and the medication maybe having an adverse side effect. Maybe she didn't really. It's just crazy to like stab yourself in the back. Like if you want to kill yourself, why would you do that? But I feel like it just had to be. That's more the mystery to me, is like what led her to do that.
Yeah. When I did ask what people thought about the case, a lot of people that there's a cover up. I believe that Samuel's family are quite wealthy, so they're like, everyone's covering up for him. The governor's covering up. Like maybe, I guess, but I don't know. I just feel like
it'd be a hard cover up with all those cameras and timestamps. Like to me, that's irrefutable. Basically, like I don't think multiple neighbors saw him in the hallway trying to get into the room. So what? All those neighbors also were involved.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, it had to be suicide, because I don't think it was him. I don't think anyone else got into the apartment.
And the thing is too, like no DNA of anyone else. Samuel's DNA wasn't on the knife, and the door was latched from the inside. Like I know he could have cleaned the knife and all that. I know all of that. But the main thing is then how did he latch the door from the inside? Like you can't do that unless you do some tricky thing underneath the door. Like I didn't even know what the gap underneath the door was. Like maybe there was ways he could have done it. But if the neighbor came out and saw him trying to get in, like that's so risky to do that. Do you know what I mean? Just hoping no one's going to come out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time he was back. I just feel like there's a lot of unusual things in this case. But then I feel like people are also saying that he must have managed to latch the door somehow, which is almost as unusual as her stabbing herself in the neck and the back and the head as well. Like that's a weird thing to do. So I don't know. Like
depending what kind of latch it was, like I'm sure people would know who actually did the reports, but some it would be very, very hard to do from outside under the door. Almost impossible.
So I'm also not saying it's definitely 100% suicide. I just feel like it's probably not a cover-up. It does seem like there is enough evidence indicating that she was struggling with her mental health. There was no other evidence of anyone else there. So maybe it was a suicide. I don't know. And I understand her parents not wanting to give up because it is unusual. But if she
either way, I would just want answers. Like, why? Why did this happen? Why did she do this? What caused her to do this?
Thing too is that like for her parents, so she was 27 years old, for her parents to be worried enough to contact her psychiatrist to tell them that about their worries about her anxiety and her mental health indicates that it was obviously very apparent. And they were worried about her enough to contact her mental health professional to make sure that she was getting the care that she needed. So I feel like that indicates that there was a lot going on for Ellen. And I totally understand why they don't want to accept the suicide ruling. And I do understand why people find it hard to accept because it is a very, very unusual suicide method.
Yeah, agreed. So that's it for this episode. Be interested to hear what all of you think. If you guys think we're crazy for not being like, it was definitely a homicide. But we're just here to be honest and give our honest thoughts and not just be here for clicks and try to sensationalize things. Even though in this one, I bet if you put like, we think it was a suicide, people would be like, what? Like that's the clickbait.
Yeah. Yeah, so one thing I am interested in is if you have read the whole report, if it does change your mind at all, or if you just think it was just a reiteration of everything that they have gone through. I'm interested to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I'd say it changed my mind because I think I was always more like, yeah, no way, it's a suicide. But seeing the new report, like how it's all laid out, whether that information was all new or just kind of was like misconstrued, I definitely changed my mind more.
Even after we posted about it, I did have one message from someone, I'm paraphrasing. They're like, this is, bullshit. It's all based on her behaviors. It's not based on anything medical. And I wrote back and I said, have you actually read the report? Because I would say at least 60% of it is based on her autopsy and the medical, information. So I feel like that people just assume that they're only ruling it because of her anxiety and her mental health issues, where they're actually not. They've gone into quite a lot of investigation about the wounds and about the lack of defensive wounds and the hesitation wounds and all that type of stuff. So I feel like the report is very useful to read and it might help you to make more of a decision on what you think happened in the case.
Yeah, people never want to actually read the report, but you gotta. Okay, so yeah, let us know what you guys think. Thank you again for being Patreon subscribers. Love you guys so much. Stay safe out there. Peace out.
See ya.